Hi, welcome to the Mohua show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur, and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken imandari se. Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Mriganka Gope. Mriganka is a teacher who teaches at the government-approved state-aided college called Umeschandra College of Commerce. She is currently pursuing her PhD from Vidyasagar University and closely working with sex workers and transgenders in and around Kolkata. She is also associated with a registered NGO called Poorbita, which works for the welfare of the children of the rural and underdeveloped areas of West Bengal. Welcome for today's episode, Mriganka. You need to share some stories about how Poorbita has helped the children.
Hi, Mohua. Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Um, Obviously, I'm going to talk about Poorbita. Actually, Poorbita works under EGRA. EGRA is the broader term, Poorbita is a smaller term. Poorbita specifically works in the rural areas of Bolpur, rural areas of Bardwan, which is there in West Bengal, like you know. So it is based on the children specifically. It's the children who's the focus of Poorbita, children of the marginalized population. Because you know, in Bolpur and Bardwan, the problem is that the tribal women and also the tribal men, they're extremely hardworking. They're very passionate about their work, but there's not much scope of work that's going on over there. So, what Poorbita does is Poorbita takes care of the children of these women, children of these men and women who are very much interested to pursue education. And you know, over there, education takes place in a very different way because their education is just not about studying. It is about music, it's about dance, it's about recitation, it's about painting, it's about so many things. It's kind of an overall grooming. Right. So, and also about defense skills, self defense skills, even that is taught to the students. And these are all taught by volunteers, you know, people who are willing to take up such kind of work. They don't get paid for this and they don't even charge. I mean, they just do this willingly out of the love that they have for these little children who's residing over there. And I personally take care of these children because I try and ensure that they get the right kind of nutrition every morning. For this, I do whatever I can from my end. And sometimes we organize some interesting programs, maybe a Diwali program or maybe somebody's birthday celebration over there. So it is always a give and take policy because it's just not that we are giving. There's no charity. It's about the wellness. You know, they are giving us back too because whenever we reach there, we are always greeted with, you know, flowers and bouquets, which are all handmade. So there's so much of love and so much of passion here in these beautiful villages that they are always welcoming us, you know, with their hands stretched, and they are so very near and dear to all of us. And even during COVID times, I would say, when the situation was so tough and children were not going to schools, you see, children who live with us, I mean, the children who belong to the cities, even they were not able to concentrate. They couldn't, like, you know, do their stuffs properly, couldn't do their tasks properly. They were also losing track of so many things. So you just imagine what really happened in the villages during 2020 and 2021. So the children suffered immensely. But even during those tough days, the person who runs Poorbita, we lovingly call him Montuda, but his name is Kamala Kanto Jana. He did everything that he could possibly to, you know, bring up teachers from all the places and teach them painting and dancing and music and everything else. The 10 students, 10 children, I would say, from Poorbita got into the Ekalavya project of central government, and central government took them up under its wing and started funding for their education, everything. Like, you know, there is an Eklavya project of the central government where marginalized kids are taken under their wing who do well, and they are taught until they reach a 12th standard and they are groomed properly. So 10 children from there got this opportunity via Poorbita. So Poorbita is doing really well. It is looking after the rural children and also the rural households at the same time. So that was all about it.
So, Mriganka, it's very interesting. You're a commerce student and, you're a commerce graduate, and your life generally revolves around numbers. And, why would you choose something that really is, in the non profitable side of work? I mean, how did you come into this whole awakening with yourself to decide and work with sex workers and the transgenders?
I mean, this is such a deep question and something that is so close to my heart, I would say. When I was in my university, it was back then. that I thought that I read quite a few stories and articles on sex workers and transgenders or eunuchs also. And I have this family upbringing where people have told me to be compassionate, to be empathetic towards others, and to understand what people are going through. And it's very important that we don't sympathize with people, which is something that I've been told a lot of times by several people who are working for others. That you don't sympathize with others, you try to empathize with others. Don't think about charity, think about wellness programs. You're not supposed to say, oh, you're so poor, I'll help you tomorrow because I have money, or I'm going to help you day after tomorrow because I have some surplus resources. This is not the way things go. Like, it is about undergoing what they are going through, or maybe stepping into their shoes and getting an idea about what they're exactly feeling, so that you can feel it and you can do things that can make lives better. So this is one thing that I've been told by a lot of people, and especially by my family members who told me, who have expressed their feelings about how you can stand by others. So it was then, and during my university days, I was keen to work with those sectors who are considered as the informal sectors, unorganized sectors. So I went on reading a lot of articles and books with regard to sex workers. I've seen a lot of movies also, because there are so many movies revolving around them. So when back those days, I didn't know if I would ever get a PhD in a government university, because I wasn't sure if I would ever qualify these exams or not. But I thought that if I ever do it, I'm going to do it on this. And it even happened once that I couldn't, convince one of, in one of the instances that I'm supposed to do my PhD on this particular topic. I couldn't convince it well. And I was so upset about it. But later on, it just happened that things fell into place, and I got the opportunity of doing my research on sex workers, eunuchs, transgenders who belong to the underlying sections of the society, the informal sections of the society. I always wanted to know how things work over there, uh, how things are running over there. I mean, is it actually what we read in books? Is it actually what we read in the articles? Or there are a lot of differences in their lifestyle, or in the way they work, or in the way they perform their duties? And what are the challenges and odds of this profession? These are the things that have been always intriguing. So when I thought of doing my PhD, finally, I was very sure that I'm going to do it on nothing but this actually.
Wonderful, Mriganka. Two transgender people, in Tamil Nadu, they were harassed and their hair was forcibly cut by two men. They've been identified, these two men, as Yuva, Bhuvan, and Vijay. They've been arrested by the Kalumugalai police, and the incident surfaced online, and what is most heart-wrenching is this, that the men forced and chopped off their hair. So we've had this transgender activist called Grace Banu, so she shared the video on Twitter. The atrocities that often go unreported, actually. Have you ever come across a situation like this, in your work?
Yeah, exactly. I have seen the video too, and I have a lot of things to tell you with regard to this, because um, you know I have been working with this for some time and for quite a number of years. I'll tell you. I don't know whether it seems controversial or not, but in West Bengal, the situation is slightly better, I would say. Slightly better in the sense that it is comparably better than the other states. Why? Because over here, we don't treat people with such kinds of, there's not so much of atrocity going on over here over eunuchs, specifically, because here we are highly attached to the eunuchs. We call them we call them when a daughter or a son is born in our families, so that they can offer their blessings. We meet them in the local trains or local bus, even if we're not paying them, but we do ensure that they bless us. They look at us properly and they say that, yes, you're going to have a better life, or yeah, you're going to have a good life ahead. So these are the things we expect from them. But having said that, I cannot deny the fact that there are atrocities going on here as well too, to some extent, but not as large as the other states of India. But there is one thing which is very important, that Article 21 of Constitution of India clearly states that everyone has dignity to life. Everyone has, personal freedom to choose over anything else in their life. So whether the person is a eunuch, or the person is a sex worker, or the person belongs to any other strata of the society, which is not very normal to people like you, me, or others, we are not at all in a position to harass them or embarrass them in any way or the other. There are, children who are transgenders and who are studying in normal schools, and we very often find that these children are harassed by other children. Not only harassed by other children, but the parents of those children also call them by certain names or call them, in a certain way, as if they are not like the other normal children we have. So this is very wrong. This is sheer inhumanity. How can parents be like this? How can you treat children in different ways? I mean, maybe, there's just one thing that we must remember, that maybe we have our two eyes perfect, we have our two hands perfect, we have our two legs perfect. So we think we are absolutely perfect. And people who are having certain kind of imperfections, which are not imperfections at all, these are not at all imperfections. These are some exceptions to the normal way a body is shaped, or to the normal way somebody's mind is shaped. So we consider these as imperfections. We consider these as weaknesses of someone's character, weaknesses of someone's body. And taking that into account, we try and harass people. We embarrass human beings, in such a in such a wrong way. So this is something we need to understand, that as human beings, where are we heading into? Why we are making the society such a regressive place to live in? These are instances that are happening all over India, not just in the place you stated, but all over India. And it is a matter of concern to every one of us, because if someone can be beaten, if someone can be brutally shaken, if someone can be killed, then what is the kind of society we are heading towards? What is it that we are like leaving for our future generations? What is it that our children will learn from people like us? So that is one of the most important thing that we need to understand, a question that we need to pose to all of those people who are doing such and such things, I believe.
Mriganka, you also work with sex workers, right? And this is a very, very difficult area of work. It isn't easy because, as we understand, that there are criminals that go hand in hand, with the entire mafia that's there with the sex workers. And, West Bengal does have a very large number of sex workers in India, like Bombay. So and it is so surprising that according to our Vedas, sex workers are actually honored, especially during Durga Puja. We have the Nabadurga, the 9 forms of goddess Durga, also called Nabadurga, but as a Bengali, I pronounce it as Nabadurga. So goddess Durga is worshipped as the Navakanya, the 9 classes of women that have been collaboratively mentioned in the Vedas. A Nati, who's a dancer and actress, a Vaishya, prostitute, Rajaki is a laundry girl, a Brahmani is a Brahmin girl, a Dalit, and a Gopala, which is a milkmaid. So many in West Bengal believe that the worship of the goddess is incomplete without worshipping these forms, and the soil from the Nishiddopolli, as it's called. Nishiddopolli, loosely translated, is a place that not frequented by people, is considered in Punnomati, Punno, which means sacred, right? It's considered sacred
Right,
mati.
right.
But in
Huh.
spite of this inclusion of the mud that is used in the making of our biggest festival, Durga Puja, they are still marginalized. So how much of truth is there that sex workers are included also during Durga Puja in West Bengal? I think you would be able to throw light on this.
It's so true that yes, the soil is taken from there first to before the idol is actually built, and the idol gets its real shape. So these are the things that truly happens. But the question is a question of inclusion. Interestingly, inclusion is the subject that I'm dealing with. Financial inclusion, although it is, but yeah, social inclusion too, because these terms are interrelated. Inclusion is all about letting the people have proper economic participation, social participation, political participation, and all other forms of participation. Unfortunately, all these forms of participation are some way or the other missing in West Bengal, and sex workers are actually not allowed to participate in either of these. I mean, it is very heartbreaking, but it is true. Financial inclusion, no. There's no financial inclusion. There is very little financial inclusion. Someone told me that, in GB Road, Delhi, I had a talk with a lady there in Delhi, and she was saying that in GB Road, in Delhi, which is a red light area, we have 1,500 sex workers. I said, you have only 1,500 sex workers? In Shonagachi, we have 16,000 sex workers. So you see, the number is huge. We have several sex workers working in Shonagachi, and not only in Shonagachi, but also in places other than Shonagachi. So a large percentage of sex workers in India is constituted here from West Bengal. So it's a huge number over here. But despite the huge number that we have, as you say, inclusion is not there. Now, there are a lot of reasons why inclusion is not yet happening. Like you said, criminal activities, that is a major problem, which is true, and it is very true that criminal activities do take place in red light areas because it is the breeding ground of some heinous crimes we've never ever thought over. And if I tell you the heinous crime, I mean, what kind of crimes take place, it is not going to be a very, pleasant thing to hear out. But there are stories of how things have been quite not so pleasant in a warm state like West Bengal. I'll just share a very small story, which is not going to be that difficult for people to hear. I heard that there used to be a girl who was once asked that, how did you land up in a place like Shonagachi, which is considered to be one of the dirtiest, people call it. Whether it is dirty or not, that is a controversial question, but people consider it to be one of the dirtiest places. So how do you get into this particular area? So she said that once I was brought into this place, being said that I'll get a household job. So I was told that this is going to be a great place for you to work. You're going to make good money and you're going to help your family too. So she was brought over there. And once she went in, nobody would let her go. So she was locked in a room. She was brutally assaulted. She was sexually assaulted. She was mentally harassed. It went on happening for 2 to 3 days. So these things kept going on, but there was one day that she could manage to get out of this particular house where she was staying, and she went out of the lane and she was about to like cross the entry gate of Shonagachi so that she could get back to her family. Over there she met three policemen, and she just told them that, I'm in a mess, I have been brought over here and I'm not willing to work in this part of the city. I want to get back to my home. Can you please help me to locate my place so that I can get back to my family and live happily thereafter? What happened is that she was raped by these three policemen, not just once, but multiple times. And after that incident, she had no option but to stay back in Shonagachi for the rest of her life. And it's not just she, but even her future generations are over there. And thus goes the story. So, what is inclusion? I mean, how would they get any kind of inclusion? No social inclusion, no financial inclusion, no economic inclusion, nothing at all. However, they are entitled to all the rights that's there in the constitution, article 12, article 13, article 21, everything they're entitled to, but they are not. Even if, I'll just tell you, during Durga Puja, like you said, the soil is taken from here and the idol is shaped, which is very true. But once if you visit the pandals of Durga Puja here, in every pandal you'll see people lining up in queues. So many people are there, they are standing just to get a glimpse of the pandal or to understand what is the theme of the pandal. So many people are there. But once you hear the names of Dorjipara or Shonagachi, they are calling over mics that, we have this great theme at Dorjipara, we have this great theme at Shonagachi. Please come pay us a visit. You like what we have done. You like our artistry. I went to Dorjipara this year and there was nobody in that particular pandal. No one. Only the volunteers, their members, that's all. The entire pandal was almost empty. Nobody was there. And at Shonagachi, very few celebrities visit over there. Sometimes, for some, they do click some pictures and all of that. But normal people who belong to the households, they will never ever go over there. So as far as inclusion is concerned, there is very, very little inclusion. And that is, I'm talking about social inclusion. And if you talk about financial inclusion, I think the rate is too low. I mean, negative, I might say.
I'm sure with the pandemic, it has been really, really difficult because for almost from 2020 to 2021, there would have been very few people also, coming in, and their business must have been really down. Would you like to share any, incident of some of the people who tried to go back home, but they were not accepted back?
Yeah, it's very true that, during COVID, the situation was very hard. And you must have seen in papers and articles, a lot of writings were there that, at Shonagachi, they were not able to eat for consecutively 5 days because customers were obviously not coming and they did not have that large savings which they could drain and make their living out of it. And also that they had to pay the tuition fees of their children, which they didn't know from where they are going to collect all of that. So it was getting very difficult for them to sustain in that particular area of the city. And I'll also tell you that, in West Bengal, sex workers do have a bank also, I mean, which is run and administered by the sex workers themselves. It's called Usha Cooperative Society or Usha Cooperative Bank, which is there in Kalighat, and which also has a branch in Kuch Bihar, Dinhata. It has 2 to 3 branches in West Bengal. It started probably 25 to 26 years back, and it's been a long time. It started with only 35,000 rupees as a corpus, but now it's doing really well with lakhs and lakhs of rupees. So they have, this is one of their achievements, I must say. So this is what they have done. So they were going to the banks, they were trying to break the deposits, but even there was this huge queue in the bank, and it was getting very difficult to them to withdraw the required sum of money, and they did not have the required sum of money which would meet their exigencies. So things were getting actually very, very difficult for them to sustain at that point of time. But the thing that you asked, that if there was anybody who wanted to get back to their family and make a living, well, no, I think nobody would do that. Now you'll ask me why. The answer is, if one has been to this red light area once in their life, it is not so easy for them to get back to the normalcy. I mean, it's just not an easy task. A lot of people say that, why can't they get back to the normal lives? Why they don't get rehabilitated? You know, I asked for this question to even a eunuch also, that, why don't you get back to the normal lives? I mean, why don't you work somewhere? There are so many kinds of work available. Why don't you come to my house? There was this one person. Her name is Anjali. I call her Anjali. So she. I once asked her, why do you stay in this eunuch area? Why don't you come to my house? We can work. I mean, I can give you some work. We all can work together. What's the problem? She twice she denied. She said, no, I don't want to get to your place. Now I was like, this is very rude. I'm telling her to come to my place, but she isn't coming. As a young person, you are a little whimsical. You get a little upset at all these things very soon. But then she told me that, see, it's not easy. Why it's not easy? Because I cannot trust your people there. Today you're calling me out. Today you want me at your house. Tomorrow your parents, tomorrow your the people you live with, they might one day say that, no, we don't want to have her in our house any further. She's not someone we are comfortable to stay with or comfortable to work with. You please send her back to her own place. But if you do that, I will not be accepted in my class, in my tribe ever after. Because there is this, what they call mashi, the head of eunuchs. I mean, every set of eunuchs have a mashi, okay, have a head who takes care of a group of eunuchs, say in central Kolkata, or say in South Kolkata, or maybe in North Kolkata, this way. So once they leave their mashi, they are going to get marked. And how they're going to get marked? They have this silver coin which will be burnt, and there will be a stamp put on their forehead, in the middle of their forehead, which means that the person has been marked for life. So not only they will be unacceptable in West Bengal, in the eunuchs community, but they will be unacceptable across India in the eunuchs community. Seeing that mark, nobody will be accepting them. So how can someone get back to the mainstream society or to the families of the mainstream society with a risk that as large as this? Because if the family doesn't accept them later on, if the family feels whimsical and says that, no, we don't want to have you here, you please go away, and we are not okay with you people, then where will they go? They have nowhere else to go. They have nowhere else to live, nowhere else to work for. So they feel very, very scared to get out of their little community that they have. And so it is the case with the sex workers, because people say that, sex workers are not marked. They're not marked. But you know what? Unknowingly, they are marked for lives too. I mean, even they have this silver burnt coin somewhere burning right in the middle of their forehead, which is invisible though. But yeah, it is also there. I mean, people know that they work over there. People know that they have been working over there. So nobody accepts them in their household. Nobody keeps them even as a servant. So it is not easy for them to get back to the mainstream society. But yes, COVID has hit them very hard. But later on, they developed strategies of having video calls and all of those things to entertain or say serve their customers and get money via Google Pay, Phone Pay. But Google Pay, Phone Pay is not well accepted in Shunagati because they go for cash transactions. I mean, like I told you, digital India is something, or financial inclusion is something which has not yet left its footsteps properly in these communities. So dealings in cash are more, but little bit they try to kind of recover from the situation in the later part of 2020, or later in the beginning of 2021. The situations are way better now. But yes, COVID has been literally very, very tough for them.
So Mriganka, I am, of course, as usual, short of words because I keep realizing that, we've seen this film by Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, Pretty Woman. And that film showed about how this really high flying corporate guy is willing to marry a prostitute. And in reality, it is not so. So there's a very clear mark or a boundary line between the gentleman areas and the prostitute areas that continues even today. And just going back and looking from the middle of the 19th century, the British colonial administration, the Christian missionaries, and native English knowing, educated Victorian Indian gentlemen that we find even in plenty, even now. And I repeat the word Victorian Indian gentlemen, they started a campaign against the prostitutes. So this was part of their project of social sanitation. Social sanitation, which I think they needed more than the prostitutes who were earning a living. It was a process for creating the so-called gentle society. And this is it's a very, very long battle. And for all our listeners, prostitution in Kolkata, formerly called Calcutta, is present in different forms. And Kolkata's sex industry is one of the largest in Asia. Prostitution may be brothel-based or non-brothel-based, as in the case of call girls. India is regarded as having one of the largest commercial sex trades globally. Kolkata has many red light districts, out of which Sonagachi is the largest red light district in Asia, with more than 50,000 commercial sex workers. And this may not be exactly correct, the number, if they do not have access to sanitation, healthcare, ability to lodge a complaint with the police for any sort of sexual abuse. I think we're still very, very far away in development. Thank you, Mriganka Gope, for being on today's podcast. And I wish you all the best for all the work that you're doing. It requires a lot of courage. And on our podcast, we bring out voices of people that's unheard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohua, for having me here today. It was so nice to talk to you. And thanks a lot. Thanks a ton for this.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk ईमानदारी से.